There he is.
Hello.
Hey, man, how's it going?
What's up, buddy?
Hey, what's happening, guys?
Well, listen, you're sending us the voicemail. We're getting concerned.
Oh, did I? Well, I was walking my dog.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, that's
all right.
true. You were.
I swear to God, but I'm sorry. I didn't hear the phone.
Nope, that's quite all right.
So,
Dave.
So, Pat, I just put up that legendary photo with you on the RM and that supermodel, and you rocking the mullet. So that's live on the screen right now.
boy.
That photo is awesome. So that
I
screams
don't
like
know
1990.
what photo it is, but I can just imagine if it was anywhere in the 90s, definitely had a mullet.
Oh, you got a mullet, that's for sure. Oh, people are loving it.
That's crazy.
I'll have to look.
Yeah. So, Pat, fill us in. What's new? You've been off the radar for a couple, 2-3 years. I know on Old Men That Used to Race and a few other
Yeah.
pages, people are kind of wondering what happened. You fell off the face of the earth.
Well, a lot of things happened. I started growing my business out. That was the first thing that happened, and it really took a toll on everything, especially racing. I basically had no extra time, and the only day I had off was on Sundays. I started working Saturdays, which I never did when I was racing. I'd always take Saturdays off to prep the bikes and get prepared and drive to the race and stay overnight or whatever. And I started getting busier and busier, and I started losing Saturdays and started working, and then it turned out to be like Sunday was my day to do anything other than work. So that was the first thing, and then I obviously got hurt a few years ago with the National at that 125 Dream race. And
I remember that.
Yeah, that kind of put a huge halt into all the racing. I was actually not racing much at that time anyway, but I always like to come back every couple of months or whatever and kind of just catch up with everybody. All my close friends are still there. I tell everybody, I said I spend more time with people that don't live around me than I do with the friends I grew up with around here,
Absolutely.
So when that happened, that was like a holy cow. I'm like, my whole life flashed before my eyes, and I'm saying to myself, what am I doing this? This is like a wake-up call, so to speak, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Hell yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, well, I mean, up until that point, you had raced 38 years straight.
That's correct. I did, and I
Which
don't
is crazy,
really
because
remember
Patrick still
ever.
seems 35 to me. He does.
Honestly, I don't remember having a span of time where I was actually out for long at all. Even if I broke a bone, I would, the week before I was supposed to be able to come back, I'd come back early.
Yep.
Or, I broke ribs and I used 2 kidney belts at one time. And,
now that you
stuff
mention,
like that.
now that you mention it, all the years. I mean, I was only there for a few years, but the few years I was there, I don't think you ever were hurt back then. You were always like the constant,
Very consistent.
Yeah, I don't know why. I think I mean,
Well, you trained quite a bit. Even back then,
I did a lot of training.
You did a lot of
when
training.
I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely dedicated my life towards it, and I wouldn't have done it any other way. If I had to redo it, I would do it the same way.
Well,
But
more
I
importantly,
think,
Ron Jackson's got a question. He says to ask Pat Barton about wearing the jersey at Bull Run that said JoJo was fat on the back.
oh man, I didn't even remember that. Who would remember that? I didn't think that. Oh my God. So there's some things that I'm not too proud of, and that's one of them, because JoJo was somebody that I always looked up to.
Yep.
We still do.
And I still do.
Yep. Absolutely.
It was that weird time where I was getting to the point where I was beating him once in a while, and he was my hero.
Yep.
And then it got to be a clash for a little while where we were, head to head, and he would yell at me when he was behind me, but that's not abnormal for him. He would do that anyway.
Yeah.
Yep.
If anyone has ever raced with JoJo, they know he's like the nicest guy in the world, but on the track, he's ferocious. And
Oh yeah.
And I honestly was, it's so weird you mentioned that, because about a week ago I was thinking about that, and I don't know why, but it just came into my head when I was working. I'm like, why did I do that? And to this day, I don't remember why I did it.
Yeah, but you
But you
gotta
look back on it now, you got to find the humor in it, because I'm sure if you asked JoJo, he would find it funny today.
Yeah.
Something happened between us, and I don't know if it was in practice or something happened, and we had some kind of a falling out, and it was a fight of some sort. And then I did that just because I was a brat, I guess.
Sure.
That was
Immature, a little
my nickname at the
younger.
time.
Sure.
You go through those years too, you know, when
Yeah.
we're all racing together, and you know it's like, and you want to beat each other, so you're rivals and stuff
Yeah.
like that, but you always have that, like, you know, mutual respect for each other, and most of the time we're friends, you know, off the track. It's just when you get behind the
Right.
gate, everybody's your rival, you know. I mean,
I agree. I agree
it's
with
like
that.
that was my big thing, was I always strive to be able to keep you guys in sight, you know, and granted that didn't happen unless I ate my Wheaties and everything lined up right, but
Well, yeah, those
Yeah.
pictures you were posting with Pat was constantly in front of you this week.
No,
And
he was there. I remember that race, which is crazy because
that was the only thing.
Trevor's like the all-time, like, I remember everything race and how
Yeah.
he did and how he started and how he finished and
Yep.
what bike he had and what number he was. I can't remember a lot of that stuff, but that race, I do remember he being in front of me, and I'm like, this guy has been practicing on what I call hard pack. Now, people from other states or regions of the country would call that sand at Bull Run, but
Yeah.
for us, that's hard
That's
pack.
hard
That's
pack.
it.
Yeah.
I used to, I'm like, where is this guy riding in Norfolk that is like ruddy, rocky, nasty, gnarly? Because he is like gone, and I can't catch him, you know. So you did leave a mark.
You guys got me for most of the motos. It was that I had to use that example when I said when whoever it was that posted said, hey, who did you beat that, you know, was really good, and I was like, I had to say I beat Pat, but I only beat Pat because Pat rode 8 20-minute motos that weekend,
Wow.
and I only
I
rode
know.
4. And I only
That
got you.
doesn't matter.
I only got you the last moto, but the whole 250 expert was like John, Tread, Pat, and me for the first, you know, both days on Saturday, and then the
No,
first
you know,
moto on
Ty,
Sunday.
You were there.
Yeah.
You were right there.
It was a good weekend.
I remember when-
don't discredit yourself for that. You did what you did, and you left your mark, and you should be proud of that.
Oh
for
yeah,
sure.
no, it was fun. That was probably my best weekend. But
I'll never forget when Pat started raced NEMX a couple times when I first started it. We had a tier discount for how many classes you would race, and you know you would race the first 2, and then you would get the third one. I think it was
Yeah.
like half off. Pat shows up and goes, "I want to race 6 races. How much is the 6th one?" And I looked at Pat and I said, "Anything after the 3rd, just it's free."
I know. Just go.
Exactly. I'm like, just get in the gate. You're
well, I
fine.
think you know, speaking of you racing classes, even when I had come back and I started riding some vets class, you were still running like 3 or 4 class, whatever you could ride, you were entering and riding, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
great. Hopefully Pat will get tired and I'll be able to race with
No,
him
he's
in
like
the
energized
30 plus
bunny.
class.
He's like ridiculous.
I was in shape back then, and I took a lot of pride in
Yeah.
training and in doing my homework during the week. And
Yep.
I think a lot of people used to depend on riding, and I was the opposite. I would depend on training, meaning like gym, running,
Yep.
rollerblading, cycling.
Yep.
And I already knew how to ride, and I could go fast, and I knew what to do. And so what I did was I used to train all week and not ride. So that worked
Yeah.
for me. I'm not saying it's going to work for anyone else, maybe, because I know a lot of people like to ride instead of training because it's what they enjoy more. But for me, I feel like the longevity of my career was a result of me not practicing so much. There's so many people throughout the years that I remember, like, where's so-and-so this weekend? Oh, he got hurt practicing.
Right.
Oh, he broke his arm, or he twisted his knee at Raynham, or
Yep.
and I just, once I got to the point where I knew I wasn't going to get any faster, without going to schools or whatever, and we didn't really have too many of those back then.
Yeah.
I just started ramping up my training, and then what happened was, even if guys were actually faster than me, training wise, they weren't as strong as me at the end of the moto, and a lot of times I would pass them.
Yeah.
But
Well, I remember that. I mean,
Yeah.
you would ride those motos at Southwick in 100-degree heat,
I used to love it.
and you come off and be passed out there at the at that gate, waiting for the host to be run over you, and you would already be back at your truck, getting fresh again and resting
I would
up for the
run.
next moto.
I'd literally run.
Yeah.
I'd be like, I don't want to see anybody. I don't want to know who came behind me. I don't want to talk to anyone.
Yep.
I'm out of here. I want them to think that I was 2 minutes ahead of them.
Yeah.
I want the guy in second to come off the track and look around and say, "Holy shit, I think I won." Where the hell's in front of me? I don't see him.
and then you go up and you look at the scoring sheet and you're like, damn it, that number 5.
That's pretty funny. That's good
I
stuff.
honestly did that though, for sure. I mean, there was a lot of mental with me with motocross.
It is
that
a
worked
lot
for
mental.
me. I had things that in my head made me do what I did, and other people they wouldn't work for, I'm sure. But that's just some of the things that happened, during my career that I remember, and that was definitely one of them. I was like, as soon as I got off the track, I wanted nobody around me. I just wanted to leave. I don't want to talk about it. I was done. I mean, when you become a vet racer, it's the opposite. You wait for the next guy. You're like, holy shit, I just swapped out. You just see me almost kill myself.
Yep.
And, you know what I mean? You spend 20 minutes like after the race talking about it.
Wait, that's been my entire racing career. Don't knock that.
No, but I mean, you're right. You're right on that. I mean, when you're an expert, all you want to do is you're focused on doing the absolute best you can do. And I mean, for you guys, it was winning. For me, it was trying to stay close to you guys and do get in the top 5.
Yep.
But after that's over, it's kind of like, man, I miss hanging out with the guys and seeing the guys in the pits. But the vet racing is all about just having a good time.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, it's changed the whole perspective of going to the races. It's more of like a camaraderie type of thing, and respect on the track, and not really taking each other out to win. And it's been great. I do miss it, and I feel like I'll try it again sometime. But obviously now I can't ride with the quarantine and all that stuff. There's no racing and COVID, whatever. But
you also, your son is growing up too, and you're there. You're around and you're doing stuff with him, and that's a big part of it too.
How old's your son now, Pat?
He's 10. Yeah,
10.
He's 10. So it's about time he gets on a bike, because I started about 11 or 12 maybe. I wasn't one of these kids that started on 60s and 50s and 80s.
Yep.
I wasn't John Dowd either on the other end, but
that's true.
Started in the 21, but I started on like a YZ100 as far as racing goes.
Yep.
I mean, I had little bikes growing up, but I never raced 80s. I never raced 60s or 50s or any of that. I started on a YZ100, and my God, it was so competitive. It was 40 guys in the 100 novice class. You know what I mean? It was
the qualifiers.
If I could finish in the top 20, I'd be like excited.
Now, did you do anything with NEMA?
I didn't. Yeah, I did. I got kicked out. That's what I did.
Uh-oh.
Oh boy.
What happened was I was racing NESC, and I went to NEVA periodically.
Yep.
But I didn't feel like they liked me over there, because they had their own guys that were like champions there.
Yeah.
And then when I showed up, it was like, oh boy, this guy thinks he's gonna. So one time at Loudon, I can't remember who was there. Chris Clark was like the champion, and
yep.
he was good for sure. And his brother was there, Larry Clark. I think you know those guys.
I do. Yeah.
Guys, Sunrise. But anyway, it had nothing to do with him, but I'm just remembering names from that era. But I rode behind the starting line. Maybe Gary Frank too. I think he was.
Gary Frank was over
really
Gary's
good.
a watcher. Yep.
But so they disqualified me. I'm like, what? I'm like, I just drove to Loudon. I did like one moto, and I'm disqualified. I'm like, what is the problem? They're like, you rode behind the starting line. I'm like, yeah, my clutch is fried. I was trying to warm it up so I could actually like get. Maybe the top 15 on this whole shot before I get back to changing between motos.
Yep.
And they're like, nope, you're done. I'm like, so that's what I remember about NEMA. But I did a bunch of races with them, and there was other races that I did pretty good at, and I enjoyed it. But I grew up doing NESC.
You were an NESC guy.
I started with NESC, and I ended with it, or I will end with it. And I always stood by them. Not that anything against NEMX. I always stayed in NESC just because the championships were so prestigious, and they always had contingency. And I just felt like it was the stronger of any of the organizations. You know what I mean? The best guys would go there.
You came up through that same time. I was a little bit behind you guys, but that time that we would come in and we were in the expert class, I remember as a novice, I started in 84 as a 125 novice. I would go to the fences and watch the expert classes, and they were like, I mean, I think you were running 52 back then or something like that, but it was like a national. 84, yeah. It was like a national every moto.
Hey, more importantly, Art says he'll still paint your helmet for ice cream. So if you buy Art some ice cream, you get a free helmet paint job.
shelf over here.
You do. I actually have posted a couple pictures tonight already.
I was just gonna put them back on my head and start riding.
Yeah,
You gotta see some of these helmets. These things are so funny. It's like, what is this? Even like as far as the shape of the helmet, like my nephew Luke has been helping me clean out, which has been a real chore, and he's helped me a lot with getting all my stuff out of the garage and trying to clean it up and sort through it. And he's like, look at the shape of this helmet. It was like. It looked like a bowling, like as far as the dome of the helmet, it was like so round. And I didn't even notice that until I look at a new one. I'm like, holy cow, it's not even like the shape of your head. How did I have that thing on?
So are you telling me the Pat Barton Museum is no longer? I mean, I used to. I've been to your garage a handful of times, Pat, and I was always in awe. I mean, you had every era of RM ever owned, and you had those 2 rows of helmets.
My garage is such a disaster. It's like impossible for me to. There's two. What happened was the house that I lived in for the last 15 years. I moved out of, and I never took all my stuff out because my nephew and his parents moved in there, so it was like family. You know, I didn't have to move my stuff all out. It was like the garage was half full of my stuff, and I just left it there. Well, about a month ago, I got a new tenant, and I had to take everything out, and that's where all this crap I posted, like a fraction of it came from, and it's everywhere. There's helmets, there's boots. I have like JT racing stuff in bags that's never been used, that's numbered, lettered.
I remember 20 years ago, Pat, you used to call my brother, and we go over, and it'd be trash bags of stuff. He'd be like, whatever you need, just...
just whatever you... I found a box of extreme racing gear, jerseys, and the mice had gotten inside of them, and they just bit like holes through all of it, and it was just gone. I threw them all out.
Somebody just posted about that when we were still before we started the show. I saw them post up about you running the extreme gear.
Yep, actually, I had a picture.
Yeah, I had all that stuff. I don't know where it all went. Somebody has it somewhere, but I did save a whole bunch of stuff. I have more stuff than I care to. I mean, it'd take me forever to post it. I have stuff.
You know what's scary about that, though, when you start thinking about it? You look at it, I'll look at it, we'll say, okay, it doesn't seem like that long ago, but that's vintage material stuff.
Yes.
You know, now that vintage racing, you can race a 99 in vintage racing.
Isn't it? It's 21 years old.
It's like, wow, that bike can drink. It's legally can drink because it's 21 years old, but you can race it in
and
armor.
it still can compete, though, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. The time just flew by. I feel like it's still 1999 right now in my head. I don't feel like I've gone that much further, but then I have to think through all the years of all the stuff that I've done and just holy mackerel.
You look at your son and you go, how was he 10? I mean, I look at my 3 daughters and I'm like, how do I have an 18-year-old? I'm like, oh my God.
When I stopped racing in the expert class in like 92, halfway through 92, because I knew we were going to get married, and we decided to start a family after that. My oldest son is 26.
Right.
It's like, how did that happen?
Right.
Does he race?
Nope. He rode motorcycles. They both rode for a while, but they were little, and they were there that infamous day at Middleborough when I caused a red flag on that Husky.
I remember that.
So I wish I did, but it was.
You were knocked out or something, right?
Probably wish you don't.
That was a bad day.
Was that the Husky that was from Armin's?
Yeah. That was
number
the day.
16.
That was number 16. Yep. I come back and they gave me 16. I'm like, that's Dowdy's number. I don't want that. And Clovis is like, nope, you're 16.
Well, Clovis didn't give you an option. Clovis gave you the number and that was it. So I wanted to buy a number. Clovis gave it to me.
That day on those bikes, I went out. That was my first year able to ride 35 plus, and I was chasing you in the 30 plus experts. And,
I knew somehow it would be my fault.
No. It was actually I was chasing
it's always
you.
my fault. Somehow. No, I'm just kidding.
AJ was next to me on the other Husky, and we were running second and third in that moto, and I hit a section of that tabletop that the forks just bottomed out on takeoff, and the bike just flipped me over the bars. I ended up breaking my wrist in the throttle housing when we took off. But the weird part about that whole thing was they scooted me off in the ambulance, took me to Jordan Hospital. The same ambulance came back to the track, and it was the 35 plus moto, and AJ got hurt.
Scooped him up.
They scooped up AJ on the other Husky and took him to Morton.
God.
So
the only two Huskies in the race.
yeah, got cleaned out, taken right out. Mine was a
Those
pretzel.
are rare. Those Huskies were rare back
Oh, yeah.
then. It wasn't like nowadays.
No,
Well, it's a KTM
Nobody
nowadays.
rode those things.
It's a white
no.
KTM.
I know. Yeah, it's a white KTM.
They had no KTM affiliation back then. They
Nope.
were just, those things were barbaric.
Oh,
It was
they
like,
were-
oh my God, look at this thing.
I remember you coming up to me.
Marzocchi forks, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's right.
It had a Sachs shock on it and Marzocchi forks.
Right. Oh,
I
yeah.
think I saw.
They make like scooters or something.
Right,
They
yeah,
like stock
they do.
together.
I ran
like
in-
basement.
I ran into you at the Arena Cross in Worcester later that year, and we were laughing about it, and you were like, "Dude, you were the only person that was able to ride that bike." And,
Yeah,
I,
right.
and I was like, "Yeah, but not very well."
Well,
Jack keeps calling it the Widowmaker every time we bring it up. So
I remember Dow tried riding one of those about 10 years ago before they were bought out by KTM and whatever, affiliated.
yep,
And it was awful. I
They
didn't
were
even think he had
horrible.
it for like 2 weeks. Remember, he had some
Yep.
weird fender on the back, and
yep,
it was just
Yep.
like, it looked straight. It was like the same, like from the gas cap to the rear fender was like straight. You could
It
put
was
a level on it.
exactly.
There
It
was
was-
no bend in anything. There was no way to sit. It was just flat.
and the seat was held on with like this thumb tab that just was straight in the middle, and you twisted it. It was almost like a D-ring type of thing that sat down. It was crazy. It was a
remember.
weird design. I mean,
I remember.
they were fun. They definitely got attention, but they definitely weren't competitive with what was out there for the time.
So yeah, so my son, he's back to that. I mean, he's great kid. Couldn't ask for a better kid, and he's
That's
just
awesome.
he's just being a kid. You know, I'm not forcing him to try anything he doesn't want to.
Yeah.
He loves playing soccer. I know he's really into hockey a lot. We're playing street hockey all the time,
Yep.
and motocross is kind of like, it's hard too, because I used to just ride from my house and go. Like, I don't even know, like, where I would take them at this point. Like, where do you bring someone to learn? There's not even I used to have, like, sand pits everywhere we would go to just to ride.
Yeah, and I mean, you don't. I mean, now you go to a lot of the tracks, like Wareham has a kids track. Jake does a
Yeah.
great job over there.
Yeah, I saw that.
Some of the other
That's a
tracks,
possibility.
you know, Dan's been building at MX23. He's got a kids track over there. It's still, you know, in development stages and stuff, but
Right.
it's still pretty tough. And then they shut down the main track and let the kids go out there for sessions too, which is pretty cool.
Right. So,
But
if
it's tough.
if he's interested, I'll be there for him with any support that he needs, a bike or, you know, I'll do whatever. But at
Yeah.
this point, he's just into the schoolwork and, you know, doing his sports. He likes soccer, and then, like I said, he's into hockey now and football and different
Yeah.
things like that. So,
But you know, and you know, to your point too, with him being 10 and maybe getting starting like you did, 11, 12 years
Yeah.
old, if that's what he wants.
I started racing at 14.
Yeah.
But I started riding probably at like 10 or 11, probably on a XR75, MR50.
I think that helps too, that you don't burn out as quick as some of the kids that have been riding since they were
Yeah.
5, 6 years old.
That was always the argument, like the kids on 60s or 50s, actually back then, 50s, then 60s, 5s
Yep.
or whatever it was, then 105s and
Yeah.
or 85s, and it's like by the time they got to, you know, the big bikes, they were like, I'm
Yeah.
out of here. They, you know, I got a girlfriend now. They just disappear. You know, I
Yep.
don't know how many of those kids I remember seeing. And they're like, what happened to him? I was like, oh, he's not doing it anymore. You know,
Yep.
so.
Burnt out.
He made expert, and he doesn't want to put it in that time anymore.
I remember people making expert and seeing them for one race and never saw them again. Ever.
Yep.
I mean, all of us could have done that, I guess, right? I mean, I did terrible my first expert race. My first 3 years expert were terrible.
Yeah.
I had the top 10 guys could have won anything, you know, at any given time. I was trying to get in the top 20.
Yep.
It was impossible. I was getting 20 seconds, 20 thirds,
Yeah.
20
Well,
guys on the gate.
when did you turn? When did you turn expert?
1982.
Yeah, I was going to say, because when I came in board, you were already an expert and you were already established because you were running in the top 10, I think, in 84. I remember seeing you hovering around the top 10 in 84.
Yeah.
But back then, I mean, that field was so stacked. You had so
nuts.
many
It was
guys
crazy.
that were out there. I mean, even guys like you had Graham Barber, Scoff, William Scott, Mayo, all those guys, you know.
Spencer Morrison, Jim Meenan.
Yep, Richie
Dwayne
Sampson.
Schofield, Rich Sampson, Leo Photo.
Yep.
I could just go on forever. It was nuts. It was just the amount of talent back then was incredible. And
Oh yeah, the Rudd
I
brothers.
I feel like we just were blessed for getting to ride with all those guys while we were growing up at the same time and learning the ropes type of thing. And I think they definitely helped me a lot by riding with them.
It made you a better rider.
It did.
It made you a better rider. I mean,
Yeah.
I can vouch for saying when I came in, I didn't come in until 87, but trying to chase down some of you guys, you know, in the 125s at the fall of 87 and then moving to the 250s, it was like you were always a constant. You were there. By 88, you were there all the time. You were winning motos a lot. And, you know, that's when the other guys took off and went to the Nationals, you kind of like would just disappear because you didn't have anybody to race with.
Yeah, that was one of the things I didn't do. I don't have too many regrets with motocross, even the National and all that crap that happened, and I didn't win, and I should have, and all that. That's still, I don't have any regrets about that particular race either. The only one regret that I had was that I never went. When Doug and John went, it was almost like the same year or two, within a year or two.
Yeah.
And I was if I wasn't the same speed as them, nobody. I mean, we were all.
You guys were all right there.
We were all doing the same things, and we're all close to being the same speed.
Yep.
And I just never left because I had that landscaping business I started.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to lose it. You know what I mean? So. Yeah,
you were building the other sides of your life as opposed to just being in motocross. It goes back to like what you had said before. You know, once you get to that speed, you know where you're at speed-wise, and you know what your competition's at. You know where it for us back then. It's pretty much where's your bread and butter. Is it going to be racing local in New England and trying to win contingencies, or is it going to be trying to go after national stuff? And I mean, I know you had a great Honda support ride in '89. I mean, that was a pretty good deal.
Yeah, 1989, 1988. No, 1989. Yeah, I think in 1990 I switched to Suzuki, but we had. Myself and Badger, if anyone knows who that is, certainly the people from that era definitely know who he is. He's definitely one of the fastest 125 riders I've ever got to ride with.
Yeah.
But he and I both got Honda support rides, and we got contracts, and we got salary, and we got 4 bikes, I think, 2 of each. And then we had Honda line gear, we had Pro Honda oil, we had Honda line boots, helmets. I mean, so they came to my house, and I can't believe it to this day. They came with a tractor trailer, not with the bikes, just with all the other stuff. The bikes I picked up at the dealer. They started unloading cases and cases of Pro Honda oil in like boxes of like gear and like 15 pairs of pants, like 30 jerseys.
Wow.
It was great. It was the amount of support back then was just phenomenal. But that lasted for a year or two. Then they don't even have that stuff anymore. Unfortunately, I feel bad for the riders that are coming up and they don't get the level of support that we used to
because
I don't know if it's the economy or what it is, but I don't see that happening anymore.
I think it's just a whole different environment, you know. I mean, where the races are now, they're kind of spread out all over the place. It doesn't have the same, prestige like we had with all the long races, all the championship motos, all the contingency that we had available in New England. Right. They still have some of that stuff, you know, and NESC is still probably the dominant organization, but you have so many different things that you can do and places you can go and ride, and it's just a whole different, it's a different world, you know. I don't like to say, because we have a lot of the guys that follow from the old days, I'm not going to say it's better then or better now. It's just different. It's all what you're used to, and it's all what you're you know, you've grown up.
If you didn't know any better, then you wouldn't know, but I know better. I know what we used to get, and to see people like Jason Brooks and you know, Robbie Marshall and you know, even Chris Canning up to this point now. Not, you know, I see them not they're getting support, but
it's not honestly, like what you used to have.
The top 10 guys used to get free bikes.
Yeah.
And it wasn't uncommon for like even the top 15 guys to be getting a free bike to use. Gear, goggles, everything.
Even
Dunlop.
Right. I mean, even at the shop levels. I mean, most of the manufacturers like Honda, they had their programs. Kawasaki with their Team Green programs. I know Dowdy and Tread were on Team Green for a couple of years.
Yeah.
but it's like I was running further
Tread
back.
was on every team.
Yeah, Tread's ridden every bike except a Husky.
Who would have thought?
Technically, he's been on Husky because he's riding a KTM.
Yes.
No, wait a minute. Husky had such a village because his bike broke.
Yeah, well.
So now he's been on every single bike made.
I think there was
Kajiva.
and he's funny because he's like when you talk to him, even in Carlos' post the other day when he gets on the thread and he starts mentioning like, oh yeah, well I'm running a Honda that year, so I know that was '89 because I had a Suzuki 250 and a Honda 125.
Right.
And then somebody asked him about the Suzuki. He's like, yeah, that was the bike I was riding. It had like an hour on it and ended up in the Chicopee River. And
Oh my God, he
Dowdy,
remembers everything.
Dowdy and
That's
Carl
why-
fished him out.
Can't have anything
Whenever
else.
I have to figure something out, I just send him a text. I'm like, Tread, what was here? You know what I mean? I call upon him because he's like Nostradamus.
Yeah. Well, it was funny because when Canning jumped that jump at Selfick and he got it on video a couple weeks ago, and the message boards or the threads just blew up with, oh, this guy did it and this guy tried to do it and this guy did it, and Tread's like, bullshit. Lachine was the only one that tried to do it. It was 88 at the National or something like that. He's like, now stop it, And it's like, that's
Right.
Tread. Tread's to the point.
I know people are saying now that other people have done it in the past. I'm like, when the hell did anyone ever do
Yeah,
that? I've never heard of anyone doing that in my life.
Nope.
I mean, everybody was trying to scrub that. No one was thinking about hitting that. Granted, the four-stroke, I mean, you're going to hit that on a 125 or a 250 for that matter. 250, a 250 two-stroke compared to a 450 four-stroke.
It's no comparison.
It's like comparing a 250, to a 125. It's
Yep.
just, so a 450 hitting that, I mean, you still got to. Tell
Yep.
you what, he didn't even go off the track and he hit it. So
Yeah.
He didn't even
Anyway,
go
I
pound
don't
to
know.
town.
I
don't
don't-
know how they just, yeah.
It's
I don't know what possessed him to do that, but he must have had some confidence and tried it.
Treadwell
Or at
just
least
jumped
sized it
on.
up.
Tread
You're
just
gonna
joined the
try
show.
it.
Well, Chris he's young too, so he's still got gigantic
Hats
cojones.
off to
Yes.
him, I'll tell you that. That's crazy.
Well, and Keith didn't even know he was going to do it. Keith found it afterwards.
Yeah, he's
You did
yeah.
what?
Yeah, Kylie videotaped it, or Kylie
Yeah.
recorded it and posted it. But I mean, you think about it now, and it's funny because when we talked to JoJo a while back, he kind of hit the nail on the head, and it really rang home for me at being older now. I never used to like to say I was afraid to do something, afraid to jump something or it scared me. But I
Yeah.
can tell you now, especially at 52, I see stuff and I'm afraid to do it. I'm just like, you know what? I don't need to do that anymore. But back
Yeah.
then, if you were
It just
afraid,
eats away at you, though. If you're a competitive person,
it
like me,
does.
I just came back from riding down in Georgia. We went to Atlanta and we rode a few tracks there.
Yep.
And there was like a step down thing or a tabletop, and it was a good 80, 90 feet. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
if you longed it, you were screwed. If you shorted it, you were gonna just, I don't know what was gonna happen.
It was
Then
gonna
you
hurt.
bounce off, something could have been bad.
Yeah.
And I didn't do it, and I was still pissed that I couldn't do it driving home from there. I'm like, I can't believe I didn't hit that jump. I'm like, wait a minute, this isn't a race. I have nothing to gain. There was
Yep.
nobody there
Yep.
except for myself and my brother and my friend Steve.
Yep.
And I'm like, why am I mad about this? But it's just,
Talking
it's
to
just
yourself really
how,
home.
that's how, that's how I'm wired, for
Yep.
years and years and years of having to do competitive things on the track and having to
Well,
step up and
it's-
do better than the last guy.
It's funny because even back then when you were young and it's like you knew there was a big jump and you might have been intimidated by it, you waited and you found out who was doing it. You just kind of latched onto the
I was
offender and you
I was
matched their
never
speed.
the guy. I was never the guy to do the jumps first, and I was never
Nope.
good
Nope.
with jumping. My thing was always the cornering, especially in the sand, obviously.
yeah.
But I like the rough tracks. I was never a good jumper. All I did do a couple of top tens in 125 Supercross back
Yeah.
in the 90s and 80s, but it was never my forte. I can tell you that. I was scared shitless riding those things.
Oh yeah.
I
You
was
know
25.
who I would latch onto when I was, especially in the amateur class, when there was jumps like the Central Village when they put that triple in at the bottom of the hill or the big double, whatever it was back then. Andy Catanzaro, that
Oh,
kid
yeah.
would jump anything and just like you just match his speed and go right over it.
He was a good jumper. He's a good rider altogether, all
Yep.
around. But He was definitely a good jumper. Didn't they have like a huge uphill jump that like people got like messed up on at Central Village up into that like bowl turn one time?
They did, yeah.
did.
When they reversed the
That
track.
was the late 90s.
When they reversed the track.
I think somebody like got like.
They got. I think
really
somebody got
hurt on it
paralyzed
bad.
there. Mike
Mike
Salinas,
right?
Mike
Yes,
Salinas.
that's right.
Yep, broke his
Is
back
that where
on
it
that.
happened? Yeah.
Yep,
So,
I believe that's where it happened.
So what? Let me ask you guys a question.
Sure.
What track or what jump do you think was one of the coolest jumps in New England that you ever hit? Because I have like a couple of them in mind that I remember that were really cool.
I mean, in later years, of course, it's the Intimidator.
I never hit it, but yeah, Intimidator.
Oh boy.
But
Fred loved that one.
yeah, I didn't like it too much when it was a rock face on it. But now it's like, dude, Tony's got that thing so mellowed out, you just like see
But,
it. It's so much fun.
It's not the Intimidator now.
No,
I mean,
it's-
everybody
it's-
knows that. But
yeah.
before it was
Yeah.
gnarly.
Yeah.
Really.
Probably my second favorite is probably the Spectator at Derby, which it's like a fall away downhill.
Is it?
Yeah, it's a pretty cool jump.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Derby, Vermont. I
Yeah.
haven't seen that place yet, but it sounds like a cool place to go to.
Yeah, it was a cool track. Yep.
How about?
So I liked
Yep.
Bull Run.
Yep.
When they ran the track backwards, we used to jump, or was it? No, wait a minute. It was regular. Somehow we did that after the start. You go over the tunnel. You do the zigzag.
Mm-hmm.
You go into the highest upper turn, and you come down the hill. We were doubling down that or up it, one or the other. I can't remember which.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you remember that?
I stopped.
And then, yeah, that's what it was. And then you'd hit that big boulevard turn there.
Yes, yeah. I see. I didn't race too much there after I think '93 was the last time, but I remember seeing pictures of you guys as the Bull Run developed. But there was some cool stuff that you could do at Bull Run, even when they first opened it up. There was like you kind of came around one of the turns past the spectators, and you went over this like little rise as you went towards the back, and you could hit like the braking bumps and just float over the whole thing,
Right.
maybe 6 inches above the ground, and it was so fast because you didn't hit any of the
Missed the
bumps.
top of it.
Yep.
And I also used to like the one at Minot, and they took it out, which I was really bummed about, because that was actually one of my favorite tracks. There was a jump. I don't know if you
I've never been.
haven't ridden there in years,
been to
but there
Minot,
was an awesome downhill tabletop that you could just, and then it would go way down into a low turn that was all moon dust. But it's
I know what
gone.
you're talking about. Yeah,
They took it
took
away.
out.
I'm like,
Yep.
oh my god. So it's things that I look forward to when I'm on the track. I start, it helps to have stuff like that when you keep your motivation up when you're riding.
Absolutely.
When you know there's an obstacle that you love hitting,
Yep.
it makes you get around the track that much faster, and you enjoy it more because you know you're going to hit that thing again. You know what I mean?
Yep. That was like way back when for us. I think you go to Central Village, especially in practice when everything was still smooth, and you would hit that tabletop that the finish line was on. And I remember Leo Photo teaching me how to throw a bike sideways. And he would come off after practice. He said he'd be following me like in '88, and he's like, "Dude, I think you finally got it down." I'm like, "Yeah,
He
I
taught a lot of
probably
people
do."
how to throw it sideways. He was good at it.
Yeah. He was like, "Nah, you just got to do this and this and this," and then he'd laugh, like the Leo laugh.
Yeah, those are the people that I really looked up to, and I enjoyed being around. I went to school in New Hampshire, so
Yep.
I lived up there, and he lived in Bedford, and I lived in Manchester in the dorms.
He
And,
told me something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, so they kind of, I don't know if you could call it take me under their wing, but I used to go over their house after school, and then we go riding periodically, and
Yep.
Bob was there, his brother was a great friend of mine at the time.
Yep.
He got me a job at D'Angelo's up there, and it was just a really cool time. I think that was like 87, 88. It was 88 because I almost won the national that year. And
Yes.
I remember I was in New Hampshire. I was still in college.
Yeah.
I'm like, shit, I got to go to school tomorrow.
Yeah, and you were like, you whole shot that race and you led for a while.
Yeah.
I did. I did. It was, to this day, I still felt like, I can't remember it like it was yesterday, but I felt like it was the week before the national. You know how all those guys show up, and it was
Yep.
like, I think I won the week before the national with all those guys there.
Yep.
And then,
Yep. At the Invitational.
I think so. And when I whole shot and I just led, I honestly, in my head, when I was out front, I just felt like I was riding NESC. It was just no different. I didn't change anything. I didn't
That's
get
cool.
intimidated by anyone.
Now that was
You know,
Moto
by
1.
myself.
That was Moto 1, right?
Yes.
Because I remember, dude, I was sitting on the line. It was my first national ever, and I had to jump into the 250s because that's all I was riding.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I remember watching that moto and cheering for you, like sitting on the gate,
Like blown away what's going on.
like just so stoked for Pat
Yeah.
beating the moto.
Yeah.
And
Now you're saying, now I got to do that. No,
well, I knew that for me that wasn't going to happen because I was just barely cracking the top 5 once in a while, top 10 in motos
yeah,
back
you
then.
qualified.
But I qualified. But the thing was like I was so nervous. But that took away from all my nerves because I'm like watching you and rooting you on, and the next thing I know, I'm like,
Gate's dropping.
well, that moto's over, and back at that time, the camera crew would come down the starting line and they stick the microphone in your face, and you had to tell them who you were, you know, with the ESPN2 crew, and I'm like,
ESPN2,
I'm like, I just watched you, and now I'm like, my name is Jim.
Did you see Pat?
But yeah. But no,
Yeah,
that was cool.
race was, I mean, I honestly didn't. I was thinking about it after the race, and I remember thinking this, and I'm like, I felt like I was riding an NESC moto. I really didn't feel any different than. I wasn't tired until I crashed. I still felt perfect the whole time, and it was a crazy day. In fact, I pitted with Leo Photo. I got pictures of him and I together. He was there. He raced. He qualified.
He raced the 250
Yeah,
class.
I think he topped 15.
I think he did.
But it was overshadowed by that. So he's like, "Oh, you got 15th, and that's not very good." It's like on international,
Yeah.
you know. But there's a lot of New England names. If you go through that list on that day,
Exactly.
in the 125s, there was a lot of
There was
guys. Wayne
so
Scott,
many people.
even Billy Dill was in there.
Billy Joe
There
was
a
in
lot
there.
of guys.
Nucci was in there. There was a whole
Yep.
bunch of guys that were in there. And then you moved to the 250s, and it was like out of probably 80 guys that were on the two gates for the day, there was probably 30 New Englanders that were on the gates, if not more.
And that's how times have changed. Now, you're lucky if there's 5.
But then you throw in the guys from New York, like you had Carlo, you had Kurt McMillan. I mean, you had guys like Jim McElvain from New Jersey, Brian Carroll.
McMillan was like running second in the 250
Yeah.
class, if I remember right. I was watching him like.
Yep.
He was running second, and his number was 32, I think. And
Yep.
I don't know where he finished, but those guys are always competitive.
Yeah.
McMillan, Cohen, very good riders from New York.
Yep.
Definitely were always in the hunt, even at the national level.
Oh yeah, especially at the national. You would see some of those guys come over here and they'd ride with us around the time of the national. You'd see like 3 or 4 races before or after they'd be running with New England just to get some time with us, and then with the Southwick stuff. I remember John Kitch. John Kitch came in one year and
He was
raced
here
with
for
us.
a year.
Yep.
He came in NESC. I don't know what year that was. 90 maybe. 99.
I
I'm just trying to think
it
of
was-
the bike.
I think it was
I
90.
can only go by what the bikes look like, and I know the year.
Yeah, I think he was on a Suzuki. I think it was 90. I remember him at Bull Run going down in the first corner and racing the whole moto with his ass hanging out the back of his pants because it ripped the pants right off him. It was just like, holy shit, man, how's he sit down?
He was incredible. I mean, I guess it was before then, maybe 4 or 5 years before then. I saw him at the Winter Series, and he just toasted everybody. He was gone. I mean, he was. And then he actually led the Tampa Supercross. He was leading it, and then he cased the triple. I remember that. And then that was all prior to him coming to New England. And then he just kind of, I wouldn't say he fell apart, but he just kind of, things didn't go up. You know, it was an uphill battle from there. It didn't seem like he ever got to the point where he was supposed to be. You know what I mean? Where everyone thought he was going to go. You know what I'm saying?
I think a lot of the guys, they get to that one point when one or two things happen, and it depends on how you rebound from that, your resilience,
Right.
and some of them, if they don't do too well, you don't really see them again. You might see them come back a couple of years later and have a couple of good races, but that's about it.
He was definitely somebody that was very, very talented, and I honestly think that was what happened. I think he cased triple while he was leading Tampa.
Yep.
Supercross, and I think he broke something, and then it was just he never got back to that level that he was at prior to that. He just never did.
Right.
And that was it. You know, it happens that fast. Like 2 seconds, and that's it. You're done. All the work you put in, all the years you raced 60s and 80s, and championships at Loretta Lynn's, and championships at Ponca City, and all this stuff in one case, in broken arm, navicular, and you're done. That's it.
Look at RJ. What happened to RJ with Danny Storbeck in, I think it was 91 in Gainesville.
Gainesville.
Pretty much ended his
I
career.
saw the whole thing.
Yep. And it was just nothing but a couple of lines coming together.
Yeah, but you know what his number was, right?
13.
There you go.
I remember that.
Yep.
That was a crazy one. But I mean, you're right. It's just one thing happens, and it's the smallest. Sometimes
it's a
you don't
shame
even
because the guys is putting so much work in and so much effort. And just a miscalculation. It could be a bike error, even. And it's just done. You're done that quick. That's why when that happened, we had Southwick a few years ago, and I started doing the risk versus reward in my head. I'm like, wait a minute, what am I doing out here now?
Right.
I'm here at a national at a race that really isn't even counted for anything.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be fun.
Yep. I got to
and
talk.
I ended up in the asterisk thing, and I'm like, all right, I think this is a wake-up call for me to recalculate where I'm going from this point on in my life.
Yeah, I mean, I remember I got to talk to you that day in the pits before you went out, and we chatted for a few minutes, and you were pumped. You were like, yeah, I'm going out here. This is great. I don't know how I'm going to do, but I feel pretty good. And then that happened. I'm like, holy shit, what happened to Pat? You know, and
I don't remember either.
Yeah.
That I don't.
It's weird. You lose you lose patches. You don't remember certain things, but people tell you, and you kind of fill in the blanks with what they tell you happened.
I just cross-rutted. It wasn't even a race, and I just got knocked out instantly. And then I guess I tried riding again. I got to this day, I don't know how they let me ride. I don't even remember being on the track. People were saying I was trying to ride.
That's
I don't
crazy.
remember any of it.
Well,
I'm like, how the hell could I have been riding? I don't remember.
Weird things I mean, it happens though. Weird things happen. When I bumped into you at Wareham a few years ago, and we were there that day, and I forget who it was on a brand new Husky, older guy. He kind of swapped right in front of me. Yeah, and I hit him. I hit him hard right in the back of the head, and he was out. You know,
he's pissed at you for that.
I remember you're like, yeah, dude, every time you go on the track now, we're going to make sure you wear like an orange worker's jacket.
I'm just kidding.
But
yeah, no, that wasn't your fault. I mean, somebody falls in front of you,
you don't have anywhere to go.
But you're a good enough rider that if there was enough room, you would have missed him.
But with the head thing, I mean, he was shaking, he was out, and he didn't remember any of it. He wanted to get right back on the track and get going again, you know, and it was kind of like, wow, that's.
So did you hear about what happened in Gainesville with me and then Pat Murphy's father?
No.
You didn't hear about that?
If I did, I don't remember it. What did he do?
This is a long story. I don't know if it's worthy.
We had Treadwell on. Let's talk about long stories.
Well, you have to, Dave. You have to know Pat Murphy's father is my father,
yes.
my late father-in-law.
That I know. Yes.
He was great. So you know he worked for the Winter Series and all that, obviously. But
I do. Yeah.
He used to go to Florida and work for the AMA or whatever it was called back then.
Yep.
Down the Winter Series. So
World Sports, I think.
250 Pro Class, Winter Series stacked. You're talking Brian McElroy, Dowd, Jeff Fritz, on and on and on. Alan Andrew, I mean, Ronnie Tishner, like full gate.
Yeah.
So I get a good start as far as I remember. Just completely brand new helmet. Never got a nick in it like I should have. I should have thrown it on the ground before the race. It's like one of those superstitious things that everybody does, but I didn't do that.
Don't tell Art.
Brand new helmet. Crashed in the first turn, got run over, broke the jaw in my helmet, the full face Shoei helmet.
Yep.
Completely knocked out for like over 2 minutes.
Oh.
And Mr. Murph was there. He was in the first turn for that's what he did, I guess.
Yeah.
During the day. And so I woke up and I go to get on my bike, you know what I mean? And I said to him, I'm taking off. He's like, you ain't going nowhere. I said, what are you talking about? He goes,
yep.
I said, this is a race. He's like, you're not going anywhere. And I look up. He goes, look at what's coming at you. And I look, and the leader was coming around. I was out for a whole lap,
Holy crap!
and he basically just would not let me get on my bike, which was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And Brian Berry was my mechanic at the time because John was hurt.
Yep.
That was when he hurt his foot that time, if you remember.
I do. Yep. 91.
And I just kept asking Brian all the way to the hospital. In the hospital, I'm like, did this ever happen to John? Did this ever happen to John? And I must have asked him like 150 times. And yeah, so I have a huge scar. I had like 35 stitches under my chin, ripped my chin right open.
Yep.
And I still have the helmet. I'll have to post it. I'll post it. It's wrecked. You'll see it.
Yeah.
But Mr. Murph was there for me. He held me. I was probably, I don't even know. It had to have been 2 minutes. But that's the longest that I had ever got knocked out.
That's
that I
crazy.
remember.
Brian's so funny to talk to and stuff like that, because Brian will just tell you straight, and he'll just tell you, you know what, just shut the F up. You're messed up, you know, and that's just Brian. Brian,
he's good for that.
yeah, if you guys watching don't know, Brian Berry is just, I mean, he's just a straight up awesome dude. He'll do anything for anybody, but he will tell you exactly like it is.
Right. Not holding any punches.
Nope.
So.
Nope. Oh crap! Yeah, I went to Armin Rodriguez's bachelor party with pretty much all of you guys. I think all of us were there, and I got a little bit too much overserved. And Brian I had to lean on Brian to go back through the hotel lobby so they could just leave me on the floor.
Two-stroke punch. What was Vic's punch?
That was a bad night. That was a gas can punch that Vic
Gas
had.
can punch. That's
That
right.
was a
He
that was
just
a
logged on.
that was a rough night.
I'm not sure how he got back some of those nights of the mail bonding and all that stuff.
Oh,
I'm
my
still
God.
trying to figure out how we didn't. In this day and age, if we did what we
You
if we
couldn't.
did now, what we did then, we probably wouldn't be here.
Yeah, how
Because
anybody
we got
raced?
into a lot of mischief and fights and so on.
Yep. How
But
anybody raced the
it's all
next
went
day?
over the bridge.
Most of those guys, I mean, unless you were hungover the next day, you really didn't do good. You know.
No,
It was.
trying to ride the next day is just not about it.
Yep.
Whoever thought that was a good idea? Let's go out and stay out till 4 a.m. party, and then let's get up early and then ride the next day.
Still legally drunk.
What idea was that?
Not even just yeah. I mean, sometimes it was
Hey,
racing.
let's go jump like massive cliffs, actually, on a supercross track, and then we'll go jump cliffs at the sand pit, whatever that thing is out there.
That
at
was
John's house.
It was somewhere near John's house.
I'm like, this is a good idea.
Murph was always like, "It's male bonding weekend. It's male bonding weekend."
Right. Everybody remembers that.
Yep.
But we had a lot of good times. I tell you, some of the best times I've ever had were with all the moto guys, you know, whether it be in Florida, living with each other, you know, bonding, staying. I used to stay at John's house periodically, Vic O'Brien.
Yeah.
When I was a novice, I'd stay at Vic O'Brien's house. When the race was at Southwick, I'd stay over there because he lived in Chicopee. When the race was at Middleborough, I think he stayed at my house a few times.
Yeah.
And it was just that type of thing growing up, you know.
It's cool. It's one of those things that, you know, everybody's they're you meet them through motocross, but they really become your family.
They do, and I think it shaped a lot of my life. Even like with my business, I a lot of the stuff that I do all goes back to what I learned from racing: organization, dedication.
Yeah.
You know, work hard
Yep.
for what you got. You know what I mean? And
Yep.
it's all stems from the upbringing that I had with motocross.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it kept me out of trouble.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's one of those things that when you're racing motocross, you teach yourself all the self-discipline. You teach. I mean, no matter how much you do it, it's what you work for, and especially if you're successful at it, you definitely have taught yourself, you know, all that respect and all what it takes to go into it, you know. And
of course.
And like I said earlier, you know, you get on the track and everybody was rivals on the track, but when you get off the track, you have that mutual respect and you could bump into anybody and it's kind of like the people who hated each other most on the track would help each other out off the track.
Yeah, I had definitely some times where I like you said that earlier in the show, I was definitely not proud of a few moments on the track that I did some stuff to some people, and it was just, I hope they forgive me because I never meant to hurt anybody. I never meant to make enemies, but
Yeah,
I was when
everybody
I
goes
was in
through
that
it.
mode. I did not want to get beat by
Nope.
no matter what happened. So I did some crazy stuff in the beginning, but I think off the track, everyone kind of knew that I was not that type of person. But when I get on the bike, it was a different story, you know.
You become. It depends on how much and how bad you want it when you get on the bike, I think. And as soon as you put the helmet on, you become a different
Yeah.
person. You know, it's like it depends. That's where all the work comes out. That's where your aggression's going to come out. That's where you're
Right.
going to. I mean, like you said, you do anything you can to win. You want to win because that's what you've been working for.
Right.
You know.
And then when I, my program, like I said earlier in the show, was I didn't practice, so I would train during
Yep.
the weekend. And so when I got to the track on Sunday, well, guess what? The last time I rode was the Sunday before. So guess what? I wanted to.
Yeah, you
I
want
wanted
to
to ride. I was like hungry. Like in other words, when I got there, I was like ready to rip this, break the throttle cable.
Yeah.
And so I get out and practice, and I try and take off first, just for two reasons. Number one was so I didn't get screwed around with and get roosted.
Mhm.
That was the first reason. The other reason was I hadn't ridden since the week before, and I wanted to just go as fast as I could
Yeah.
and get warmed up.
Yep.
And so if somebody cut, you guys probably remember this, people would cut the track. I'd take off in front,
Yeah.
and I'd be by myself, and I'd be like, what the hell?
Yeah.
And I'd run into these guys that, like, cut, like, half the track off and got in front of me, and then they'd be in front of me roosting me, and that would make me irate.
Oh yeah. Well,
And then so-
especially Southwick.
Yep.
Some of the problems were from people that did that, and I wasn't, and I don't know. I think it was because I hadn't ridden since the week before, so I was...
Yeah.
Yeah, it was at Southwick, actually. Two of the incidents were at Southwick. That exact thing happened.
You came
They
off.
go straight. They go into the first turn, and they go straight.
Right. They'd either go straight there or they would come down and they'd go off the drop off, and instead of
I'm
going
like,
to
wait a
the
minute, I
right,
forgot the turn.
yeah, instead of going to the
Where are you
right up the hill, they would just like slow down and go to the left into that hairpin that was right at the bottom, and they cut off the whole hill so that
Exactly.
they wouldn't be around anybody.
Right.
But you would catch
Right.
them. Because it was always the guys that were like, 15th, 16th, 17th place
Right.
that did it, so you would always catch them,
Right.
especially if you were one of the first ones out.
I had some crazy things. I probably did some things differently than other people, but that's just what worked for me. That's all I can say. I probably wouldn't be the best person to go by how I did all my stuff, because I don't think it would work for a lot of people.
No.
I was doing what worked for me, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but
It took me a long time to figure things out.
That's the best part about motocross, though, being an individual sport. You figure out what works for you, and then that's your program. And
Right.
it's like that works, that sticks with it, and people try to tell you different stuff, and you're like, show me on the track where, what you're telling me works, because I'm beating you.
True. Yep.
It's what it is. It's what we
That's
always
one of my
used to do.
favorites too, by the way. That show me on the track. You're saying I get off the track, and was just in recent years, in the last 5 years when I was still racing. A couple of times I got off, and it was a vet race,
Mhm.
whatever, big deal. But I won, so I got off the track, and then I'm sitting at my van, and then someone comes by, not mentioning any names, and he goes, "I was right behind you, man. I was right behind you." And I looked behind me at the end. There was no one there, but I said, "Everybody was behind me." It was just a joke, but it's like, yeah, you were right behind me. I hole shot it. The whole class was behind me. What do you mean? It's actually kind of comical, but
Nope, that's funny.
I mean, I just enjoy doing it. I miss going to the track Sundays and whatnot, but I also enjoy being home doing stuff without having any pressure. And
Right.
just to be like rushing to the race in the morning, because I was leaving in the morning, not on Saturday nights anymore. Then I get up at like 5 a.m. and drive to like Crow Hill or Winchester or whatever it might be.
Yep.
Then as soon as the race would get over, I'd literally like have my ramp set up in the last race, and I'd like drive the bike right into the van, like smoldering hot,
Yep.
get out of my gear and get out of there as fast as I could to get home, because I had to work the next day and get up at 4:30 or 5 o'clock.
Yep.
And so that part I just didn't miss, you know what I mean?
You know what I think is ironic, though? It's like when when you do finish like racing and you stop, taking a break for a while, whatever, and you're getting into a Sunday routine, and you wake up on Sunday morning, you're like, this is what it's like to be normal, you
Right.
know, and then
That's what I'm saying.
yeah, but then you quickly realize that that's not normal. Normal is being at the track, you know, and it's kind of like, okay, this is weird, this is ironic, you know.
You know, the other thing is too, is people say, "Oh, you must miss, being there," and I'm thinking, no. I do miss it, but I miss my friends. But I don't really miss like getting up at 5 o'clock and driving out, 2.5 hours.
Yep.
And then trying to rush home, because not to discredit the NESC, because I've been with them since I started this thing, and the NESC is always my first choice of racing organization, but they have so many classes that I was running the 30, whatever it was, the 35, the 40, 45 now, 50,
Yeah.
who knows. But they would be spread out so much that I'd eventually just leave. Like, I just missed the last moto. I'm like, but I would do the calculations in my head. All right, it's 4 o'clock now. You're on the 10th race. I'm the 17th race.
Yeah.
And
It's going to be dark.
I did 2 out of 3 classes. I'm like, I'm out of here. I'll get home at 9:30 instead of 7:30. I'm leaving. I'm out.
You remember some of those days, like you'd be driving home from the track, and it didn't just have to be Southwick, because it was like virtually any track that you get home from. But you're on the way home. You haven't been racing for a while. You're on the way home now from something, and you get the dirt in your eyes, and you got the dirt everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, all right,
Yeah.
this is part of it that I don't miss. You know.
I used to have like what they call an eye cup, I think. You can get it at like Rite Aid or whatever.
Yep.
It just goes right around you put water in it goes around your eye, and you put your head up, and you're supposed to like look into it, which is like torture.
Yeah.
And I used to have one in my van, because it would just be goggles or not. At Southwick, didn't matter. Went right through the foam in your goggles, make a difference.
Yep.
And my eyes on Monday morning, when I closed them at night, I'd open them first thing in the morning, there would be this giant thing of sand in the corner of my eye, and it'd just be like ripping it out of there.
Yeah.
But I think we all had that happen.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, so Joe Casimir just commented. He says, "I remember you, Pat, blowing a donut in Southwick parking lot in what he thinks was a 930 slant nose Porsche."
I think it was a 911, but it could have been a 930, but I don't think so.
those are some fun days.
I don't remember these things, so it's good that people remember them, so they can remind. I don't remember doing that, but I could have.
There was a lot of cool stuff though. It's like when somebody says it, you're like, "Oh yeah, I kind of remember that."
Exactly. But that's all the people that have helped me all along. You know, I had so much support from people, especially like Dunlop Tires. I've been sponsored by them since 1989 or 88. I've been getting tires from them.
Pat, you want to feel old? I wasn't even driving then.
I mean, you know how many tires that is?
Yeah.
That's just tires. I mean, I used to tell people, I'll buy the bikes as long as I get tires for free.
Yeah.
Because now they're $110, $20 a piece.
And you will go through them in a moto.
I was going to say set of tires in a weekend. Yep.
Well, because of Southwick with that start, and then everywhere had tar starts or whatever, I used to burn my tires out.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So you take a brand new tire and ruin it. You take the edge off.
Yep.
And that's how you would get a good start. And for me, I would always forfeit the tire for the rest of the race. If I could keep people behind me by blocking them, it'd be easier to do that than to start with a brand new tire and not take the edge off and have plenty of traction and have to try and come from behind. It's not happening.
Right.
Yeah, I remember, all those starts. It was crazy because there's like, I was a notoriously bad starter, but every once in a while I would get in there with you guys, and it's like, holy crap, man. These guys are smoking their tires on the gate. Maybe I got to do that, you know? And I would do it a couple of times, and then next thing you know, I get a good start, and then be like, I can't afford to put a tire on this weekend. I'm going to have to go back to the normal.
I know. Jeremy Erdley was like famous for that. He'd be the first one. There'd be 40 bikes on the line at Southwick, 125 expert.
Yep.
Like 2-lap flag would go up for the race before. His bike was started. Everyone's just sitting there. His bike's running. Then he just starts smoking his tire. And son of a bitch, he would always be in the top 3 on the start every single time. But no one cared.
Yeah.
Because they're like, he's going to ruin his tire. But
Yep. He'd have no traction from the third lap on, but
he'd have no traction. They'd end up passing. He always got good starts. He was a good rider, too. But I just remember him and Badger even would smoke his tire. We all did, but some people were a lot worse than others.
Murph used to do it all the time. He would sit there and he would put on a smoke show, for crying out loud.
I knew friends like
I know. It used to be comical. People, I think, would just do it for attention at some point.
Yep. He's done a couple of weird things like that, where he's, like he was already burned out, and he's like, I'm not racing today, but I'm going to go to Middleborough, I'm going to pull the whole shot, and then I'm going to just leave. And he would pull the whole shot, get off the track. We'd all be doing our moto, and he'd be loaded up on the way out before we even got the halfway sign.
Maybe that's the way to do it. There's no contingency for that.
There is no whole shot money. No. Well, there used to be. I mean, I remember Doug from Cycle Design used to pay whole shot money.
Yeah. So when I was an amateur, I had to freeze because I had too many points. So I would make expert. So I could only ride championship events. You remember that deal?
I do.
So I was a frozen amateur, so I'd already made expert technically, but I was allowed to ride amateur championship races. So it was a 2-day in Waterboro. So the first day, I don't know how I did, whatever. I'll ask Treadwell, I don't remember. But the first day I raced and I rode the championship. The second day was a non-championship. They used to do that for some reason. I don't know why. So the second day, Doug's like, aren't you riding today? I said, no, I'm frozen. I can't ride.
Yeah.
He goes, go out and get both hole shots and I'll pay you. And then pull off.
Yeah.
So I did. I went out, I got both hole shots. He paid me $100. I think it was $50 for a hole shot.
Yep.
Which to me was a lot. I mean, I was like a paper boy back then.
Yeah, but it was great for him, though, because Paul always got pictures of everybody with Cycle Design shirts getting the hole shots.
So I did that, and he write the check. He had his checkbook right there. He'd write the check out every week.
Yep.
That was just, those days are gone.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough.
We were making a living. I mean, myself.
Yeah.
Badger, Tony. I mean, when I was sponsored by Suzuki in 1990 to probably 2002 or 2001, whatever it was.
Yep.
I used to get 4 bikes a year.
Yeah.
Unlimited parts. I would just fax my parts order in on Monday, and they'd send them to me.
Yeah.
Could be cylinders, cranks. It didn't make a difference.
That's cool.
And I would get the 4 bikes for free, and then they would allow me to sell them and keep the money at the end of the year.
That's good. Yeah,
Wow.
that's good.
So I could make anywhere from $20,000 to $30,000 when I sold the bikes. You know, from contingency money plus. I mean, that was just for racing for fun. That was was a hobby. At least at that point, it was profitable. You know.
Yeah, right. But it helped. It helped.
Part-time job.
Yeah, exactly. It paid the bills, and it got you a little bit of money in your pocket.
For sure. I wish that someone. I guess the money's just not there anymore. I don't know. I think that would build the sport up a little bit.
Yeah.
If we had all that stuff happening still, but it's things are not like they were back then. So it's I have to get over it the way it's going to be.
I think you're right. It's totally different now. I mean, I think that some of the organizations that run it, the motos are different. You know, you got short 4-5 lap motos instead of 20-minute motos, but you got more classes that you can join. So the contingencies, instead of paying contingencies for all these classes, they have their specific weekends that they pay. We were riding. You got contingency every single weekend. You know.
At one point, I was riding. When I first turned 30, I would ride the 125 expert, 250 expert, and then 30 plus.
Yep.
And I was a couple of times I won all 3 classes. And then I would get track money from the 2 expert classes, 4 motos.
Yep.
And then I would get the contingency. I made over $1,000 in one day. I was 30.
Right.
Yeah.
Not a bad day.
38. So back then, that's how it used to roll, and that was the norm. We didn't know any different. Now it's like if that happened, it would be like crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
definitely different times.
It is.
Yeah. So Dave, what's up with the 500? Are you gonna get that thing on the track, or what's going on?
You want to take it for a rip, man? It's all yours. I'm terrified of it. I'm terrified of the damn thing.
Yeah.
It runs.
in Ken Kaplan to have a drag race at Unadilla on the top straightaway there. Finish line.
Well, John Levesque, I have to go out to Ronnie's, and I owe him a couple of lawn jobs. So if you're not doing nothing in a couple of weeks when it warms up, you want to take a ride up to Vermont, I'm gonna do some donuts around the shop.
Do you have a whole shot device on it?
No, listen, this is old school. We're gonna roll it old school.
It doesn't. You can't even put one on there. It's like the forks are upside down or something, right? It won't work.
No, it's a 2003 AF. No, it's got the upside down forks.
Oh, it does.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I think we should get it out on the track.
Yeah, it is actually. It's a fun bike. It definitely. It's got some balls. Jim's ridden it a couple times.
I've ridden it a couple of times. I rode it at MX23. That was interesting.
That's right.
On
a tight track.
On a
short
tight track with a 500. That was interesting.
Yeah, Southwick was a lot better. Yeah.
Southwick was fun. I don't know. I'm just not a 500 rider.
Yeah. So,
You know, people always say you can ride 500s, and I never did because I don't know. I think they were gone by the time I was in the expert class. So they just started to they just disappeared with it. I only rode one class my first year or something. It was just crazy back then. There's so many riders. And
Yep.
I couldn't afford two bikes. I don't think one bike. But I never rode one competitively in racing. But I think these 450s have got to be like pretty comparable to what that was. I mean, I know it's not a two-stroke, but
Well,
I mean, horsepower-wise, what are we talking?
yeah,
I think it's close. It's just
It's
the
close.
delivery. It's the delivery
It's the
that's
delivery.
way different.
I rode.
The delivery is definitely not the same. I know that, but
I rode back to back. I rode a 89 KX 500 at Ken's deal last summer at Southwick, and then Rick put me on the 2020 KX 450 right after that. And I'll
How'd
tell
that
you,
go?
it was interesting because the old bike, lots of power, wheel spins, it just digs trenches. But the 450 just like, I mean, the power, the way it's delivered, it would just go through everything.
It's like a Porsche versus a Volkswagen.
Yeah, when you're spinning
yeah,
on.
I think the handling of the old bike obviously is going to be horrendous now.
It's-
Compared to the new bike, yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely different. The new bike feels like, it just stays planted and it sticks everywhere. With the old bike, believe it or not, the old bikes turn better because they're a little bit shorter rake.
True.
So they turn tighter, they turn better. Even the bikes that, like, I was a Kawasaki guy. Those were notorious for being like a long, stretched out bike, and they didn't turn like the Suzukis and the Hondas. But I can tell you this 89 KX that I got when I ride that, and then I ride my KTM, it will cut any line inside any of the new bikes. It's ridiculously easy to turn.
I did ride one. I rode John's at Dan's track, if you remember that. Do you remember Dan? We used to go there
Yeah.
after Mill Bond and Dan in West Springfield.
Yep,
I rode
yep.
John's KX 500 there for a couple of motos, and the thing was a blast. But, it was just a practice track.
Yep. I know, Todd Rashad rode that bike at
He did.
Kaplan's.
At the KX 500 shootout, which a few people were saying Pat needs to grab a 500 and go play at the shootout with us this year. Bill Benito said that. Pat
What
needs a
kind of
500.
shootout was it? Was it like a whole side, or what's...
Yeah, it was just drag racing. That's all. Just
Yeah,
straight
it's-
drags.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's my kind of race right there.
It was,
yeah.
it was a good time. We had fun.
We had a good
Although I mean, I hope Ken's not watching. Ken cheats a little bit.
Well, we went back to Ken's house afterwards, and he tore up his front lawn with a whole bunch of 500s.
Yes, we
I
did.
doubt it.
Yep.
That was fun.
It was. And what do we have? Probably about 30 bikes, right?
There was probably about 30 bikes, but he had like everything. I mean, he had the
everything,
KXs
yeah.
and the CRs. He had a couple of YZs that were there. He had an old 80, I think it was an 83 RM 500,
Yep.
the old air cooled bike. He had one of those there.
Yep, he did.
Dinosaur.
There's a YZ490 there.
Yep.
There's some cool stuff there.
Yep.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, have you been to the museum yet, Pat? The museum's actually pretty fun.
I haven't. I want to actually go there. I want to actually donate some of my stuff to him for that place too. I gotta, like I said, I got so much stuff that I found. I don't know what I'm gonna do with it. I have no idea. There's like helmets galore, there's bikes, there's so much chest protectors. I don't know what. If anyone needs a chest protector and like they're coming, they can't afford the gear or whatever, I'd be more than happy to donate one to them. I don't even know if they're usable anymore. Does anyone still use HRP?
I still do, but I'm old.
Well, hey,
them still?
you should probably get one of the bikes going and bring it to Rewind and just load up
Exactly.
your trailer, and I bet you could probably sell all that stuff at
You could probably
Rewind.
do a scratch and dent sale and make a fortune.
Really?
Yeah. Well,
I
then,
still have so much stuff you can't even imagine. I mean, I have stuff like boxes of Suzuki parts, like bearings, and I
Yeah.
had like 2 or 3 cars. I mean, I can't house it anymore. There's just so much stuff. I just started throwing it out. I didn't even feel like eBaying it or selling it or anything because it's just time consuming. I didn't have the time to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and honestly, Pat, I mean that's how I met you was through my brother riding that Roach of a 125, and you were like, yeah, if you guys ever need any parts, let me know. And I was telling Jim, I said my first trip to your house. What's that?
Come over to my warehouse. I'll set you up with anything you need.
Oh, you did, and you gave him all kinds of unobtainium parts. I mean, stuff that just the public couldn't have hands on. And I mean, my brother every other week was like, Pat takes such good care of me.
I saved so much stuff, and it's nuts. I gotta get rid of it. My wife says I'm a hoarder. I found an exhaust pipe. I got about 5 or 6 two-stroke exhaust pipe I saved. One of them's a works pipe from Suzuki. I saved for obvious reasons, but
Yeah.
there's 2 parts that are completely, totally destroyed, like to the point where it wrapped around like the engine and got hit so hard. One of them was from a crash I took in Bull Run. I hit a ledge.
Yeah.
And the other one was from another crash. I don't remember. It was a 250, but I want to post them to show you these things. You can't imagine what a crash that was. But I'm gonna take some pictures of those. But why I even saved them, I have no idea. Just memories, I guess, you know.
Yeah. We do save some of the weirdest stuff.
Yeah, I saved most of my number plates. Those are up in my garage.
I got a few.
Pat was helmets. You go to Pat's garage, there's about 400 helmets.
Yeah, I got rid. There's a lot of them that I look for. I'm like, what happened to that? I don't have it. You know, it saved a lot of the earlier stuff because I had to sell stuff to get to the next one. When I was a kid, the way you got to the next size bike was to sell the one you had.
Yep.
That's right.
So I never saved any of that stuff like when I was, coming through the ranks. It was just later on when I had enough money to have, a second bike and so on and so forth that I saved some of the stuff.
So Pat, that's a good question. So what's the coolest bike you still own?
The original bike I still have a 93 250. I won a bunch of championships on, like 2 or 3 championships. So I used to call it, Scott Furtado was a good friend of mine and still is. We used to call it Old Faithful.
Yeah.
Never broke on me. Never, no DNFs, nothing. I rode it for the whole season. Even though Suzuki gave me 4 bikes, I'm a creature of habit. Once I get a bike that, like Tread and those guys would be like, second half, I'm starting my new bike. I'd be like, nope, that's going to stay. My new bike's going to stay in the truck for parts. I'm keeping this bike that's working right now.
Yeah, there you go.
Right.
That's what I had, that bike from 93. It's a 250. It has a ton of works parts on it. It's got a works pipe. It's got all titanium boot kit. It's got a works silencer that I'd gotten from Suzuki. Clamps. It's got a really cool front brake system that's sand cast. Like they made it out of a sand cast.
Yep.
Just some unobtainable stuff on there that I'd gotten from them at the time. That's kind of a cool bike, I think. But
well, you always did have.
Huh?
I was gonna say you always did have the best looking bikes anyway. Yes. So even if they were old, they still look new.
These don't look that great anymore because they've been sitting around, and so the graphics start getting peeling off, and they've been they get moisture from being in the garage, and things start getting tarnished. But I have a bunch of cool. I've probably saved maybe 15 bikes, but a lot of them are just like an MR50 that I bought. It's not mine, but that's what I grew up on. That's what I started with.
Yeah.
So I bought one of those. I have an XR75 that Jay Perry restored for me in 1976.
Yeah.
Silver tank.
Yep.
Really, really cool, like pristine.
You're already getting people that want to buy stuff. Phil Bonito says he'd pick up a helmet off you, put it next to his Dowd helmet in his garage. So listen, Pat, you got a business here.
I got a couple of people on Facebook that wanted a helmet for their bar. I said, no problem.
Actually, I wouldn't mind one for my man cave. That would be pretty cool.
Well, I'm obviously going to keep some of them, but there's too many. I just can't. I can't. I'll give you the one that's shaped like a bowling ball.
I like the one that says "Eat the Rich" on the back. That's a cool link.
That's not going anywhere.
Yeah, of course not. See, the one I want, he's not going to need. I see how it is. All right, that's fine.
No, if that goes somewhere, that's going to a guy named Ralph Eldridge. Do you know him?
Who is it?
Ralph Eldridge. Am I getting his name?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I know Ralph.
I know Ralph.
I know his son. Yep.
he was always talking about the helmet, asking about that helmet, wondering about that helmet, just because of that saying on the back. But in reality, it was just a song that I had
Aerosmith.
liked a lot, and I would listen to it before the moto, and it would get me like really amped up for the race.
Yeah, Aerosmith.
I would just, yeah. So I decided to put it on a helmet, and it was cool. You know, the guy that did it, No Limit Designs, Joe. The lettering was really cool that he used on it, so it was kind of neat. But people have come up with like all these things in their head. What does that mean? Are you against rich people? You know,
Vic O'Brien just said to Phil Bonito, if he gets the helmet off of Pat, make sure he puts it in front of Dowdy's.
I'm like, no, there's nothing like that. This is nothing. It's, you know, back then we used to have sayings on our helmets. A lot of people had nicknames.
Yeah.
Right.
We still have a little bit of it, but I think like in the 80s, everyone had like nicknames on the back of their pants and whatnot, on the helmets, and custom painted helmets. Used to be a really cool thing. I used to look forward to getting a new helmet from whoever it was that was painting. Marco was obviously a big supporter of mine. Hellions done a lot of them.
Yep.
That did great work. I had like 5 or 6 different helmet painters that they all did tremendous work, and whenever I get one in, that would be like the highlight of my week. I'm like, oh, I can't wait to see what this helmet looks like.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so I'll post some more. I just didn't know if people get bored with them, so I stopped. I was overwhelmed. There's too much stuff. I didn't know what to put on there. What was too much. Or I just said I got to stop for a little while. I need a break.
Treadwell wants to know what about the Wild Thing hat? Do you still have that?
The Wild Thing was on the back of my pants.
Yeah.
It wasn't Wild Thing. It was Wild Thing.
Thang. Yes. THA did say that. THANG.
Wild Thing.
Do you remember that song?
Yep. I remember.
You know, he had
those.
MT Hammer on the back of his pants at that time.
Yeah, he did.
funny.
He had Hammer Time. I think it was Hammer Time.
No, MT Hammer, because
That's right.
initials. Because I think the guy's name was MT Hammer, wasn't it?
It was MC Hammer. Yeah, MC Hammer.
MC
He had MT Hammer.
Yes.
Didn't like Mike used to show up in like parachute pants and shit like that in
Oh,
between
we need
the
photos.
motos?
Anyone have any
Oh,
photos? We need those photos. We can use those.
Yeah, he was all about it.
He's still watching. He's gonna be heated.
Pretty serious at times. There used to be this company called was it Lulu or Bula maybe Bula, and they made like these pants.
Yeah.
And a lot of the national guys had them. It was kind of like what's that company? Bad Boy. Remember
Bad Boy.
Yep.
RJ
They
Steele.
used to make like clothing and stuff. This company was called Bula, and it was from Texas.
Yeah, I remember that
And
company.
like some of the top like national guys were wearing this stuff, and then we got some of it, and it was just.
Yep.
We thought we were so cool. We're like, oh, look at this stuff, man. The national guys are using it. Tread had some, I believe. I know I had some. I don't know if we have any photos of that stuff, so that's going to be tough to find.
Yeah, and you guys used to hang out with what's his name, the Vanilla Ice, Robbie Van Winkle, right?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Pat did.
That was down in Fort Lauderdale in Airdania. There was a track down there. And they used to race on Saturday nights, and it was kind of a cool deal. It was under the lights, and they had money races, and like I said, it was one of those things where they'd pay you, and then afterwards everyone would go out to eat after. Like, what are we going to eat? You know what I mean? It'd be like a Saturday night out.
Yeah.
You just got racing. And of course, in Fort Lauderdale, everything's open till 2 o'clock in the morning, so. And there was no races on Sundays, so it was neat, you know?
Dude, it's like male bonding all over again.
Yeah, no, but we didn't ride the next day. That's the difference. We
Yeah.
did it the right way. We rode first, and then we went out, rather than the opposite.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Vanilla Ice is just one of those down-to-earth guys, and he's just so different than what, people are led to believe. He's just down-to-earth, likes motocross.
Yep.
He's into his family, granted he's older now and whatnot, but just a nice guy, just another one of those things where you meet people from racing, and
Yeah.
we had a good time together when we were doing our thing down there, that's for sure.
That's cool.
That is cool. Cool.
So, yeah.
Well, before we wind up, is there anybody that you want to thank from over the years?
Geez, yeah, there's a lot of people. I'm going to forget people at this point. I mean, there's so many people that helped me throughout the years. Obviously, all my sponsors that helped me throughout the seasons, 38 years. A lot of them I've had forever,
Yeah.
Like Dunlop was one, like I said. Smith was another one. Of course, they're not into motocross goggles anymore. Shelley.
Yeah.
But just my whole family. My father was a big supporter of mine.
Yeah.
My whole family, my mother, my brothers and sisters, and my wife and son in the later years used to come watch me.
Yep.
One of the guys that helped me a lot in the beginning, before I could even drive, was Bob Hathaway. He was one of my friends. He was an older guy that used to bring me to the track and to the races, and I wouldn't have been able to. I'm sure I wouldn't have done it if it wasn't for him, because I had no way to get anywhere.
Yeah.
My father was working. He didn't, he wasn't going to bring me to the track when I was younger. He did in the later years, so.
Yep.
So he's definitely one of them, and just everyone that's helped me out, all my friends, all my sponsors, all my family. It's led me to like where I am now, and I feel like I have a good life.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
you're definitely one of the legends, Pat. I mean, I know myself. I looked up to you growing up. Like you were the guy setting the standard.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Even though you think you made some mistakes along the way, I always thought you were a badass.
Well, I do have to tell you, you're like a big reason that the group exploded. Because, I mean, you shared it with a bunch of friends, and
That's
all of a
right.
sudden, I got
Overnight.
like, overwhelmed overnight with just people like joining and liking. I'm like, what the hell did Pat do?
And then this foolish show started a year ago, and it's like, we can't shake these people. We still got over 35 people watching tonight. There was almost 80 on at one point.
Awesome. I know. They're probably all falling asleep. The 35 are sleeping, and they just didn't turn off the computer yet.
It could be. It's possible.
Well,
I'm glad you guys had me on. I appreciate it, man. I tell you, I miss motocross and all the people and all the friends that I've had over the years, and I hope to get back sometime. I'm going to be turning 55, so maybe I'll play around a little bit in the older classes. And that type of thing, but I can't commit to like racing full time anymore. It's just there's too many other things that I'm enjoying right now, and
do it. Do it for fun.
Time's right, I'll be back.
That's it.
Yep, do it for fun and do it at the level that you want to do it at.
Do the rewind. Just do the fun stuff. Pick and choose what you want to do.
Yeah, I'll do some races. I'll do some practices, and I don't even have a bike right now. Honestly, I really.
You got a '93 RM250. You just told us that.
Dude, that thing, I sat on it the other day, and it's like, how the hell? I mean, it's crazy. It's just, I don't know if it's been sitting too long or what. I'm like,
Well, listen, I mean, you said the thing won like 8 championships. It'll pretty much run itself.
Dude,
Just start it up.
It's like impossible to ride that thing now. I don't even want to start it. It's so scary looking.
Dude, I
I'm
guarantee.
going to get killed on this thing.
I guarantee you, if you got on that bike and started up on a starting gate, the bike would probably just take over. It would know what
That's
to do,
it.
and it would
That's
get to
right.
the first turn first.
That's what I'm
I
thinking.
raced a vintage race with it.
You should.
That was scary, man. Anyway, that's a whole other story. I got used to being the 4-stroke lazy vet rider, so, going back to a 2-stroke altogether was just like, these things aren't made for lazy guys.
No,
Right.
no.
There's so much work involved with these things.
There's a lot of work
Yeah.
involved.
Yeah.
I like to push the button to start the bike now, and then just let the bike take over.
Electric start and a hydraulic clutch.
Oh,
Those
my
two
God.
things in itself is just like, okay, I'm not riding the 2-stroke anymore.
The 2-stroke is a novelty. You take it out, you do a couple laps on it just so that you can hear it and smell the exhaust, and then you park it back in and take the 4-stroke out.
Right.
So I have this VP in my garage, and I haven't raced in a few years, as you know, but every once in a while I'll just open up the can and just leave it open for like 5 minutes, and I'll put the top on. And just the whole garage is just like smells like, I think it's Pro 6. It's actually 4-stroke fuel, but just that smell to me is just unbelievable. It brings back so many memories, you know what I mean?
Every once in a while, just run like a gallon through one of the mowers or something like that, so you can just kind of get that smell.
You know how many times my neighbors have said, "Why does your weed whacker smell so funny?" I'm like, it doesn't smell funny. I'm like,
I have like a drum of like C12. Was it C12 that used to be with 2 strokes?
Yep. C12 used to be a 2-stroke.
I have a drum of that still has like 2 or 3 gallons in it. and I'll just like take some out and like I'll put it in a lawnmower if I need gas or whatever, just to get it started from fixing something.
Yeah.
And that smell just brings it right back. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
It's funny, the smell could bring it back, or seeing something in a picture, and like you just go through all these memories in your head.
The triggers that we have, like, we can't remember what we had for breakfast yesterday, but like you said, a smell, a picture, somebody saying something, mentioning a story. I mean, just stuff like that, like Tread bringing up the wild thing. It's like, I remember seeing that. I can't tell.
Yeah, there's a lot.
I remember.
I had Hammer Time.
Yep.
That song is popular.
Yep.
I put Hammer Time, Answer put it on the back of my pants, and I had those reptile pants that like Johnny O'Mara had that year. It was like it was the Answer. It looked like a reptile. It was like all these little scales.
Oh, I remember.
952.
Yeah.
And I fell in the at Southwick 125 National. I was like mid-pack in the first moto, and I slid out in the medic's turn. You know that turn used to be a right-hander?
Yep.
It's still there, but the medic's not there anymore. But I slid out, and I was mid-pack. Oh my God. Rodney Smith ran me over. Paul Buckley's had sequential photos that I can't find.
I remember seeing
He's
that.
got 5 photos of me getting run over by Rodney Smith, and I broke my ribs, and I have never felt pain like that in my life.
Yeah.
I couldn't even stand up, and it hurt so much.
Yep.
But it's just crazy, the things that we remember. But empty hammer was on the back of my pants, and I'm like, no wonder I got run over. I got hammered. You probably saw that and just aimed for me.
Well,
awesome.
Rodney Smith too. He was on his way to go to like an illustrious off-road career too. At that point,
He was. Yeah, he was in between there. His number was 135, so
Yep.
he was on the Suzuki.
well,
And I think he might have just came from Europe.
he
even,
came
you know
back.
what I
He
mean?
came back from running the GPs,
Yeah.
and he raced. He raced in the U.S. I think was a Suzuki, right? He was riding a
Yeah,
Suzuki.
he's in 125. Yeah.
Yep, and then he went off to do the whatever the it's not that it wasn't the GNCC back then. I don't think. I think it was the
No.
the National
It was
Hair
something
Scramble.
else.
It was the National Hair Scramble Championship.
Well, he ran me over, the sucker. It wasn't his fault, like you said at Lamb when he hit that guy. I mean, I fell right in front of him and he ran me over, but
Yep.
oh my gosh, the pain involved. Anybody who has broken ribs will remember. I couldn't talk, I couldn't laugh, I couldn't do anything, I couldn't cough.
Dude, ribs are the worst.
It was awful.
Ribs
Awful.
closely followed by a tailbone.
No, I don't want to experience the tailbone thing. I know
I
the
broke
ribs
the
hurt,
tailbone.
though.
I did.
that's
I
very
did
painful.
once, and it's no thanks.
Yep. No, couldn't walk for a week.
But
So listen, everybody, I hope everyone's well. I hope everyone survives everything with the coronavirus and we all get out of this thing and
Yep.
get back to doing what we love and ride and race or whatever it might be. Follow your dreams. Do what you like.
yep,
Motocross has always been one of my favorite things to do. I think it's amongst all of us that are listening, one of the favorite things for everyone. And I think that we'll be able to race again this year. It probably is not going to be till summer, I guess now.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least. Yeah. I mean, they just canceled school the rest of the year. My kids are crawling the walls.
yep. Well, hey,
Your wife's climbing the walls too.
motocross is the reason we're here and we're doing this.
That's it.
Right.
This is true. And
But I
know.
appreciate you guys doing the show. I know it's not things about money or anything like that. You're just doing it for the love of the sport.
That's it.
I just
all-
want to thank you guys for taking the time and staying up late and doing this for everyone, not just me, but for people prior and after me. And I think it's something at this time that people need because there's not even any races to watch anymore.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, I mean it's crazy. I mean, I don't think either one of us would have thought it'd be 45 episodes in here. It's nuts.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
right.
So
So, you think they'll ride the Nationals this year or the Supercrosses rather?
I honestly think it's gonna be two miniseries. I think they're gonna cut them down and probably lop off half the season.
yeah. Well, we talked to Keith last week, and Keith was saying that the promoters group is still meeting every week, and they had 4 different schedules, A, B, C, and D, and
yeah,
A
D.
was the one that was the initial one. Right now, they're working with Schedule B as a possibility. So I'm not sure, he didn't go into detail of when the races would be, but
Yeah.
I know that I saw posts that they're talking about putting the remaining Supercross rounds all at Glendale, and different track every week at the same stadium in Arizona. And before the nationals start, possibly. So
that's just crazy.
Yeah, I think it's going to be dependent on when we can actually start doing things again as a group.
Yep.
If the championship wasn't so close at the front between Roxon and Tomac, I think they should just call it and be done with it. But
yeah.
I don't think Roxon is obviously not, whoever's in second, whether it been Tomac or Roxon, they're going to just fight for
right.
more races. But here's my thought. I think they should have 3 more races, and then that's it. That'll be because what happened was they just stopped it without anyone knowing.
Yep.
So now everyone's like, "What do you mean it's over? We didn't even have a chance to have the last race and fight for our championship."
Right.
So there's going to be 3 more races, and that's it. So whoever's winning at that time is going to be the champion. That's it.
No, I like that. I like that.
Give Roxon his chance to come back or not.
And
but I don't think they need to do 7 races.
No.
I mean, honestly.
Right. And not just that. All those guys, they're riding outdoors now. They're riding not so much tracks because the tracks are closed, but they're all riding in the hills, and they're all riding more outdoor type of motocross stuff. So the suspension, the bikes are different. They're riding different bikes than they were,
you and I talked about
2 months ago.
Like a month and a half ago, we talked about how it's 2 totally different bike setups.
Yep.
Right. Then you're going to have people that got hurt from riding all the time because they're not racing, so these guys are still riding all the time.
Yep.
People are out on injuries. But I just honestly think that there should be 3 races and then just call it, and then let's just move forward with the Nationals, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So we'll see what happens, but I want to thank you guys again. And,
thank you.
Well, so, hey, listen, before you go, Pat, Phil Bonito says it's another record show, and leave it to Pat. Hour and 45 minutes in, and Vic O'Brien says you've got no off button.
He just wouldn't be Vic without him giving me a job, that sucker.
That's right. He gives us a hard time weekly.
Vic gives everybody a jab.
Oh, he was busting.
That's all right. I'll get him back.
He already said, "Come on, Dave. We all know you have an electric weed whacker." He's already giving me shit. It's right there, right on the screen.
Vic's a good dude. He's one of the best.
He is. So.
But honestly, if anybody needs like a kid that needs a check, or just let me know. I'll help them out.
That's cool, Pat.
I'm gonna keep some of the stuff, but some of it's gonna go. Some of it's gonna go into Ken Kaplan's museum or whatever.
Yeah.
I'll post some more stuff if people tell me they want to see it. But I have even pants of Dowd and Jimmy Barton. I have all different stuff. I got. I'll tell you what I have that's really cool is who's the guy? Metcalf.
Yeah, Brett Metcalf.
Brett Metcalf rode for Yamaha Troy, and his teammate, he was 123. His teammate was 124.
Yes.
And he died.
Yep.
In Australia racing, and I have his pants and his jersey from the year before that happened.
Wow.
The Yamaha Troy.
Yep.
I can't believe I can't remember his name now.
I can't remember his name, but I know.
Yeah,
I know
who
you're
you're
talking about
too. I can see the guy's face. Yep. So.
Yeah, I want to say. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Well,
so I have different things like that I collected over the years. I got some European shirts and different things, so maybe I'll post some stuff for fun. But
there you go.
Treadwell says, "Man, you're long-winded."
When are you gonna get him on? I want to listen to him.
He's been on a couple of times.
He's been on. We cranked.
He's talking about me being
Well, we crank called him once. I think
we did.
When Billy Ainsworth was on, we had Tread was on the phone and Billy was on video.
Was it? It was. Yeah, it was a funny episode. Tread was funny, and Goyette's been fun.
What about Jack? You're gonna get Jack on.
Who is it?
Is Jack allowed on, or did you guys
we've tried getting Jack on, but we've had a tough time getting him on the wire. So.
Jack doesn't answer the phone.
Yeah.
Okay. Carlo Cohen. Yep. He's up next.
Yep, I'll reach out to Carlo.
Oh, Treadwell says it was McFarland.
Oh yes, McFarland.
That was the name.
Andrew McFarland.
That's right, Andrew McFarland. That's correct. Yep.
I have Andrew McFarland's shirt and pants from Binghamton. He gave them to me that day.
Wow.
Wow, that's good. That's cool.
He's like size 28 waist or something. I looked at it the other day. I'm like, who the hell? How old was this guy? Like 14 or 12?
I don't even know.
How long did he get into these pants? One of my legs is filling.
That's crazy. I was a 28 waist when I was like 16, 17 years old, but I was
Not even then.
I was also 6'2" and 150 pounds.
Beanpole.
Right. Yeah, string bean.
Yep.
Yep. So.
All right, I think my phone's about to die. So.
All right, man.
All right, Pat. Listen, we might call you back another day when we have more time.
I'd love to.
All right,
Some
dude.
Questions. I'll tell you what you can do. Get me some pictures or some questions of who is on a bike, and just by the picture, I'll tell you exactly who it is.
All right.
That's all right. We have a new
From
game. All right.
1981 on.
Sounds
There
like
you go.
we're gonna get a hold of our boy Buckley and get some photos.
Oh, Paul's
Get
posting.
some photos.
Yep.
All right.
I'll be ready.
All right.
All right,
cool.
man.
All
All
right,
right,
Pat.
guys.
Listen, have a
Appreciate
great
it.
night.
Take care.
Thanks,
All right,
Pat.
you too.
Bye-bye.
Legit the longest guest ever on the phone.
Yeah, but he's awesome, though. He,
He
was
was great.
absolutely awesome.
Pat was good. Hopefully you guys enjoyed Pat. We saw 26 people on, so which is kind of surprising that these people didn't fall asleep. So, but that was good. So Vic O'Brien says thanks, guys. So, and I did post the picture that Mr. John Levesque sent with Woody on the bike stand. I thought that was pretty comical. So for those of you that missed it,
Well,
yeah.
see, so, you know,
I'm
like-
liking the hat. I like the hat.
But here's the thing, you know, you have like your Travis Pastrana action figures, Chad Reed action figures,
That's
Jeremy
right.
McGrath action figures.
I'm telling you.
You got a Dave Taylor action figure.
I'm
We just
telling you.
need a small version of the AF so we can put Woody
I'm
on the
thinking the
AF.
hat's staying. I listen. I think it could be a staple
I
of the show.
already told you got to friggin' attach that thing to the top of the helmet somehow and ride with it. Kind of like Rob Brown does with the
That's
afro.
right.
You got to do it with the
I
hat.
do like. All right, we're gonna see. All right, it's good. You know, if people can laugh at my count, I'm okay with that.
Either that or we could have Art. We could have Art do your helmet, but with the straw hat design.
You know, it's
painted
gonna
on
say
it.
Woody on the back. You know that,
Why
right?
not? Why not? That's it. That's your name, man.
Oh, Jesus.
Like Pat said, everybody had nicknames.
Yeah,
You're gonna
this
be
is
Woody.
True. This is true. So, but it's all good. Good times. Listen, if we can't laugh a little bit,
If we can't laugh at ourselves, who can we laugh at?
that's right. So, guys, we'll do this again and next Tuesday and try to keep the show back on schedule. So,
Yep.
as long as we can. So, I know there's no entertainment, and you're stuck with us.
There's reruns on regular TV, so.
I mean, yeah, I got barely a word at Edgewise tonight. Pat took the show over.
Pat's awesome. Pat's
So.
long time guy. So
Yep. Yeah. Vic O'Brien. Thanks, guys. Yeah. John Jacob. Great show. It was a good show, guys. It was really good. So good to catch up with some of these old New England legends, and it's good to talk to regular guys too. And look at
Yeah.
that, just like that, Richie Sampson just logged on at the end of the show.
that's okay.
Mr.
I'm
Sampson, rewind this show. So it was a good show with Pat Barton.
We
So-
mentioned Richie.
We did.
back in the
Richie,
early
we talked
days.
about you a little bit too, and thank you again for the bike. He took good care of me on that 500.
That's
So,
cool.
You did. You did.
So I'm gonna download this and put it up on the YouTube channel, on the Old Men That Used to Race
Yeah.
YouTube channel. 'Cause that way, you know, a couple people had asked if they can watch it later. I'm gonna try to get back to doing that. I know that the shows get kind of long sometimes,
They
but
do. They do. Phil Bonito just said 20 years later, and he's still down to earth like he always
Yeah.
was. Great guy. It's true.
Yeah.
Pat was always so approachable. Like I said,
Definitely.
always, you know, he might think he hurt some feelings, but I think he helped more than he hurt anyone's feelings.
It's
so.
like I said to him, though, you know, you
racing.
get to a point where, especially at the top, where those guys were all at the top. I mean, I had a great front seat view to a lot of what, you know,
Oh, yeah.
Pat, John, Tread, Dougie, all those guys.
Yep.
I mean, you did what you had to do to win.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
and motocross is mental. It's a
And
it's
there
a
was
head
money
game.
on the line too. It was sponsors and bikes and results pay.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, like you said, things were different back then. There was a lot more of the guys doing it as a job.
Oh, wait a minute. Lee Carrera just called out Gary. He says Gary never made it on the show. Is he in bed? Past his bed. Yeah,
He
Gary was
couldn't.
not on.
The laptop must have crashed.
Although we didn't we posted it late tonight. Maybe he didn't think there was a show tonight. I don't
No.
know. Well, then again, he did shave and clean up. Maybe
He
he's
might
not
have
on
had a date.
Maybe
He
he's
might
not
have
on
had a date.
This is possible.
There
This
you
is
go.
possible. So, but all right, guys, listen, we're hanging up on you, even though we just gained like 3 or 4 users. We're back up over 20 now. So, but
It'll be up in the morning, and you can always
Yes.
review it here too
You can.
on any of the play pages that it's posted on.
yeah, and,
so.
and we're happy to entertain. I mean, in times like this, I mean, who would have thought? It's
Yep.
you know, that there's no racing, but yet Jim and I, we're still on.
We're still here.
That's it. So, all right, guys, have a great night. We'll see you guys next Tuesday. See ya.
Have a great night.